Welcome, I'm Sarah Pearson. I am with the Boca Chamber and welcome to the Virtual International Business Alliance Roundtable. So if we were in person, the first thing we would do is ask Barbara to come up and welcome everyone to the campus and talk a little bit about Lynn. So I'm going to ask Barbara to do that virtually right now. Miss Barbara Cambia with Lynn University.
Thank you, Sarah Pearson. Hi, everybody. Hi, Marisol. Well, welcome to Lynn University. For those of you who have never been here before, hopefully you will get to be here sooner than later. Things are moving along here. We're just finishing our Block C of classes. And we have one more 4-week session after this, and then we'll be out for break. Something really fun that we're doing here at Lynn is we have, it's called Project Listen. I don't know if y'all ever listen to NPR, but they have StoryCorps on there, and where people get up and tell different stories. Well, we're doing it within the Lynn community, all on diversity and inclusion. And I'm proud to say I was the first person they interviewed, and all of the recordings will be housed in our library. And they gave you different topics, and I elected to do my StoryCorps or my Project Listen on white privilege. So it's really exciting, and I can't wait to hear all of the different recordings that come in from students, faculty, and alumni. So that's it, and I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you. We usually have a few students that join us when we're in person. And it's really cool to meet and see the talent that comes from Lynn University. So we've had the privilege of hiring some of those students in the past. So I do encourage you, if you're looking for internships or you're looking to hire excellent quality, people, that you reach out to Barbara. She's the one. She'll connect you with the right person for your organization. So now I'm going to introduce our speaker. Let me pull that up in this new day of technology here. So obviously the topic today is cross-cultural communication. We always kind of lean on our expert, which is Marisol, to give us just great ideas for speakers. And she always pulls through and comes to us with really amazing experts. So thank you, Marisol, for helping connect us. I know that he is also the chair of the Hispanic Entrepreneur Initiative. So I am going to introduce and read Armando Garcia-Sanchez's bio. He is an executive with 20 plus years of USA, Latin America, and international multi-industry experience, acquired with global companies in technology, like Nokia, pharma, company maybe like Pfizer, you might have heard of that, supply chain manufacturing, consumer products, PepsiCo is one of them, we just heard about them, consulting, and financial services. He's a well-positioned HR executive that is a trusted and reliable source of HR counsel to top management and HR peers. He's a human capital executive with extensive experience driving and implementing complex multi-country and corporate change management, M&As, business turnarounds, and reorganizations with related projects. He's a business professional with a blend of strategic leadership and pragmatic business approach to executive HR plans and over-delivers results. He's an effective and innovative implementer of talent sourcing, acceleration, development, and retention programs. He's a USA Latin America culture expert. He has a global master's in HR leadership, and an experienced trainer and mentor in leadership and management development matters. His combination of academic credentials, behavioral sciences background, vast international experience, and pragmatic approach offers an exceptional option for organizations in need of improving productivity and effectiveness through human capital solutions, leading to tangible and relevant business results. Like I had said, he's also the chairman of the board of directors for the Hispanic Entrepreneur Initiative, or we call it HEY, and with Marisol leading that awesome initiative. And without further ado, Armando Garcia-Sanchez. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. That was kind of a long elevator pitch, but thank you anyhow. And some known faces, known Zoom faces, different accents, so very rich audience. Well, hello everyone. My name, as you heard, is Armando Garcia-Sanchez, and I'm really glad for this invitation to be with you this special day. Today is a very important day for the country, so I'm honored to have you here. I got about like 20 people. Definitely that's exceeded my expectation, considering that some of you might be thinking or planning to go voting, or maybe you did already. Well, I'm sure that the topic that I'm going to be talking to you today is not new for you. Actually, I know some experts that have talked to you about this topic. I heard Renata is in the audience, so I'm sorry, Renata. I'm going to, I admire you and you are an expert. So this makes me start with some disclaimers. I'm not a social anthropologist. I'm not a historian. I'm not a communicator by career. I'm not a sociologist. So what I am, what qualifies me to talk to you about this topic? Well, I'm a psychologist, and we psychologists supposed to understand behavior and personality, and we psychologists supposed to be experts in interpersonal relationships. Besides that, at very early stages in my career, I started traveling and interacting with different cultures. I worked for Spaniards, Swiss Germans, companies, Liechtenstein-based companies, Finnish, Germany companies, several American companies, and I've had to adapt and understand to the different cultures. So I'm, let's say, I would probably define myself as a culture interpreter aficionado. So, and I want to share some of my experiences and maybe a different perspective in terms of cross-cultural communication from the individual standpoint of view. So I prepare a pretty simple polling questions. So I don't know if Chastity of Sarah, if you could go ahead with them. And this is just to warm up the session. It's a pretty simple, and these all questions are voluntary. So the first one is, do you have a current passport? Yes or no? And please submit your answers. Next. Probably it's taking some time. And 76% of the people, the participants or respondents have it, and 24 no. So 3/4 and 1/4 no. Okay, next question, please. Do you speak a different language other than English? Yes or no? I heard different accents and last names that were not common. So 2/3 yes, almost 61 to 39% no. Great. Next one, please. Have you lived in a different country before, either as the study abroad or temporary assignment or as an expat assignment? Oh, almost half and half. Interesting. Next, please. Do you usually interact or communicate in a cross-cultural environment? And last one, please. Oh, this is 85% and 15%. 85% yes, there's a usual interaction with other cultures, and just 15% kind of rounded numbers, no. And the last one, do you consider that cultural differences have significant impact on communication, collaboration, and productivity? And well, 95% consider yes, and 6% or 5% no. So thank you for your participation. We are going to try to post this, the answers for you to have them. And let's start the presentation. So what is cross-cultural communication? And just to provide a perspective, my abbreviated definition is to effectively, or it's about effectively communicate with people from other cultures, recognizing differences and similarities to build a strong relationship. There are many definitions that you can find. There are many things, many articles, etc., that you can find from different perspectives. But the approach or the perspective that I'm gonna try to provide is a little bit different, well, I guess, in terms that normally companies approach this by having a nice presentation, funny presentations with very interesting examples, like, okay, we are going to bow, we are going to kiss one side or two sides, depending on which country we are visiting, or we're going to receive the business cards with both hands, or we are not going to do such and such and such, with some directions. But I think in some cases, those examples are very nice, and that have helped to develop this cross-cultural communication culture, but sometimes they fall short. So next one, please. So the approach that I like to take is to portray cross-cultural communication in a broader perspective. And this broad perspective is as a part of the cultural intelligence. We remember that, or we know what is the IQ, which are normally the intelligence quotation. And this is a concept started in the 1900s at the beginning. And then in 75, we have this emotional intelligence as the ability to use, or to smartly use, your feelings and emotions. And you might remember some Dr. Coleman with the book. And in the 2000, in the 21st century, there were some authors that kind of developed the concept of cultural intelligence, and some other use it as cultural agility. And this is the ability to function effectively across different cultures, understanding and managing the impact of those cultural differences. So many companies that want or that are doing business globally are recognizing that the cultural intelligence is the new competitive advantage. Next, please. So, what is, and this is my personal perspective, cross-cultural communication, as well as cultural integration and assimilation, diversity and inclusion, are part of, could be considered part of this cultural intelligence. So, but what if we could summarize is the cultural intelligence? Well, to me, is the capability to relate and work effectively across cultures. And authors, and it is an interesting Harvard Business Review article from 2002, I think, that considers that cultural intelligence has three aspects or three components. One is the cognitive, the second is the physical, and the third one is emotional or motivational. So let's say that they start building on the emotional and they continue building on that concept. Next, please. So, well, that seems like a pretty easy or pretty linear concept. However, the studies show that 70%, and I think this is something we've heard before, that 70% of our communication style is based on our cultural values and beliefs. So the way we relate, the way we build relationships, make decisions, either we provide or request a service are driven by the culture. And the culture is what we can see by following this sometimes overused example of the iceberg. That's the surface. That's what is that we can appreciate in the behavior. But what is behind? And behind we have all these perceptions. We have education. We have the values of our culture, our family. We have the personality, and we have something really powerful, and actually it's a topic itself that I'm not going to get into too much detail, which is the culture. And the culture, I'm just talking about only the collective experience and the environmental circumstances. So whether you were part of I don't know, farming in the past, culture, agricultural heritage, or what kind of weather you went through, is also going to be impacting that communication or that behavior. Either if you lived in a country or you have families who live in a country that experienced a war or went through major international conflicts, etc. So that is going to be affecting your communication and therefore the way you relate, make decisions, etc. So, and I didn't want to say it that way, but this is also going to be impacting or creating some what we call bias, stereotypes, etc. Next, please. So, in early 2000s, when the emotional intelligence concept was developed, there was this bank with international advertising. This is a British bank with many offices. They also have a Hong Kong branch, important branch, that started presenting their advertising, trying to connect these different cultures. And was one of the most, well, to me, one of the probably most known examples, but also some of the companies. I used to work for PepsiCo, and they also work a lot on this. I don't know if you are having bad audio, I'm not sure. So that they were trying to communicate cross-culturally. Next one, please. So all their advertising was really comprehensive. I'm not sure how successful they were. So next one, please. And basically what HSBC tried to convey was that different things had different meanings for different cultures, or same things had different meanings for different cultures. Next, please. So what happened when we get to the interactions, and I'm going to talk about a couple of examples. this is normally a program that I have presented at leadership modules, executive MBAs, and it's normally half a day or a couple of hours. So I'm just trying to provide pretty brief overview. So let's talk about, and I'm not going to make, and I'm not pretend to make any political statement or anything. So I want to, please, I'm not trying to make any biased comment. I'm just going to reflect my experience. What are some of the common Anglo-Latin stereotypes when we're interacting or when we are doing business? And you can read at the different elements. Never on time. Well, there's a lot of improvisation. Sometimes about the English. Sometimes they might, or we might look pretty complicated to the Anglo culture. This common complaint about the flexible concept of integrity. They seem to be lazy people. The tomorrow culture, something they call it, the mañana, or the fiesta or the siesta. Those are type of stereotypes that are interfering with the effective relationship at the communication. But if we want to thrive, if we want to communicate effectively and build a productive relationship, we have to understand what is behind. What are some of the cultural traits and what are some of the cultural influencers of this Latin culture? For instance, loyalty is a highly valued, highly appreciated value. Normally, there's more like they are faster to react than to plan. And when we talk about the time, it's not that they don't know about the clocks. It's not that they don't know about the time. But for many Latins, the time concept is kind of a guesstimation. It's just how to say it? It is not bonding. So why? Because the culture from most of the Mid-America building these pyramids that took like 200 years, and this rich land of with whatever they wanted to take from land in terms of farming or agriculture was very rich, and there was no need, and there was always the philosophy or the belief is that there's always another day. So, and in some other cases, it's a symbol of a status. Actually, let me share something that happened a couple of years ago. We were invited to a wedding in Mexico City, and the invitation said that we should be there, let's say, 1:30. And actually, the wedding started at 3 p.m. And we Latins go there 1:30 because of the influence with the US culture. And everybody started getting like at 2:30, and seems like everybody knew. And for us, it was offensive. But to the rest of the people, it was okay. Yes, I mean, they have some latitude. But at the same time, as this could be really negative, when you ask the Latins to say, well, you know what, I'm in town and I would like to visit you. Well, I mean, they might make the time and go and visit you and not complain, even if next day they have to wake up really early, or if they have to stay late and work until they finish because of the loyalty factor, they are going to do it. So again, sometimes the perception of the Latin culture seems like a weak, but what is really behind? Well, behind are the kind of the good manners, the nice mood, the subtle, sometimes ambiguous language. The form is as important as the substance, but yes, Latins could also be passive aggressive because they are not as open, or they are not as categoric, or they have not the same ability. Some of them, I'm obviously making very broad generalizations in terms of what they don't like. And if you put into perspective that most of the Brazilians and Latin Americans and the rest of the countries in America, except the US and Canada, spent 300 years, 3 centuries under the domain of Spain and Portugal, and that they have been just 200 plus years of independent nations. Well, there's still some DNA, there's still some archetypical imprints into their behavior. And yes, they are going to be more like trying to please and trying to avoid confrontations. There's a personal sensitivity, and obviously family is going to be more important than work. But on the other hand, what about, next please. What about when the Latins, or what are some of the stereotypes that Latins have about the, I was reading a lot of, sometimes they don't call it Anglos, they call it USers, but I didn't feel comfortable using the concept of USers. Well, what is the perception? It's pretty similar. It's they don't get it, they are arrogant, some have a double morale, or they are rude, they are too squared, it is just a way, they are too complicated, they have this coin-operated mentality. I don't know if I should trust these people, they are slaves of time, they don't enjoy life, they live to work. So, and again, what is behind? There's a culture more oriented to the convenience, to the pragmatism, to the speed, maybe influenced by the weather. It's more pragmatic in terms of, yes, sometimes results justify the means, because we operate in a highly competitive environment. I'm not justifying, I'm not making any judgment. I'm just trying to describe my experience in the past 25 years living in the US and interacting with different nationalities. Normally, in the business environment, they display more casual business manners. In the US culture, confrontation of points of view, of data is acceptable, is normal. And just sometimes the toughness and impersonal attitude is respected, I would say at times overvalued. The culture normally does not appreciate, the business culture normally does not appreciate the surprises. They prefer, well, if there's something wrong, let me know. Contrary to the Latin culture, that they try to manage the damage, and it is until it is not manageable that they communicate. Guess what? We have a problem. Well, in the US culture, they appreciate to say, well, you know what? I'm letting you know in advance that I'm not going to be able to accomplish with this, or we got a problem here at the early stages before it gets out of control. So once again, these are the stereotypes because of the cultural baggage that we have, and that is reflected in our behavior. So, but is it just between Anglos and Latins? Next, please. Well, I'm not an expert. I'm just work with a couple of German companies and Swiss German and Finnish German companies. And when I was in the meetings, this is something that I kind of detected. I think if we could classify the values of the German culture, Well, there's this attention to quality, the thoroughness, the process orientation, compared to the, as I had already mentioned, the convenience, the pragmatism, and the speed of the US culture. So what is going to be the reaction? And this was a real life example of launching a technology in the last company I worked for. There was like no communication. There was like, okay, we have to calculate the risk and then plan and then do it. Let's get to a decision by consensus, because then we are going to move more in a more solid way. Oh, we need to gather the data first, compared to the counterparts in the US. Well, I mean, let's do whatever we have to do, but we have to fix it. Well, let's work on the plan A or solution A, and if it doesn't work, then let's go to solution B. Or just simply saying, let's just do it. So based on the different cultural background, we are going to have our communication style influence, and this is going to affect the way that we relate, and again, that we provide service or request services. And there are going to be some cons. Some cultures are going to be, at some cases, we know that a strength overuse become a weakness, yes. Sometimes, or at times, we could be paralyzed by analysis in the German culture. And in the case of the US culture, probably taking unnecessary risk. Well, next one, please. Thank you. Thank you, Renata. Well, I would like to spend more time and sharing more experiences, but what I would like to leave with you before opening for some Q&As, I would like to leave you something. Well, maybe two things. When you think about cross-cultural communication, think that this is part of a bigger construct, that this is part of the cultural intelligence. And second, something really simple, and actually, Renata had a different suggestion about being a structure and some of the indication that she leaves in one of the presentation that she gave a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to leave you with the learning strategy, and the learning strategy to try to be more effective cross-culturally communicating. One is listen to what the person is saying, not the accent, please. Sometimes we tend to listen to the accent if the pronunciation is good, if it is really strong accent, whatever. That's bias. I'm sorry to say it. Listen to what the person is saying, to the message, to the content. Second, effectively communicate. US culture is very prompted to acronym, to abbreviation, or to flourish business language, sometimes making no sense. Third one, avoid ambiguity. Sometimes we use the language in a very, in such a way that it's not clear what the message. And if we are not sure if the message was received, please ask confirmation. For instance, it's very useful to ask Hispanics to say, did you understand? And people are going to say yes to please. No, say, okay, what is what you understood? Second is respect the differences. People, we spoke about the different backgrounds, we might have different perspectives. And make no judgment. Be open to, you are going to learn, you are going to enrich, you are going to use the other side of your brain, and this is going to help you, again, with this cultural intelligence concept. So once again, it was a pretty short presentation, but I would like to devote some time to Q&As if you have, and most importantly, I don't know if I will be able to respond to them, but I'll try.
Well, thank you very, very much. I think just so everyone knows, this is an open roundtable session, so you're welcome to turn on your camera and either raise your hand if somebody wants to kick off the conversation. And it can be a conversation. It doesn't have to be a question. It can be, you know, a certain situation, challenge that you're having. And aside from Armando, others can also share their thoughts. Does anybody want to say anything? All right, well, I'll start by asking what are you seeing now that we're virtual? Have you seen changes in some of the what am I trying to say? Some of the challenges in the past that would happen maybe in person in business meetings. Are you seeing different types of challenges now that it's on Zoom? Or are we all, because we're all so much on the same platform, is there less of a communication challenge between the different cultures?
Well, I see pros and cons. The pros is communication seems to be more succinct, seems to be briefer because of if you're not briefer, I mean, in Zoom, you cannot spend the same time that you used to spend in meetings, or let's say we would be at Lynn University in that nice business center, maybe that would be different. So in those terms, maybe communication is a bit more effective, maybe, as I mentioned, more succinct. I would see an improvement. But on the negative side, let's remember that communication has also this, not just the cognitive and physical side, well, but also the emotional. And sometimes through the Zoom or the virtual communication, that is limited somehow. Or when we are communicating with different cultures, we tend, and mainly Latin cultures, Hispanics, we tend to use the hands and everything. And that's kind of limited to what my camera can capture. So again, I've seen pros and cons. But the good news is communication has continued, and I would say even expanded, because you don't have to travel. You don't have the limitation of well, I just can have 3 meetings. Normally with Zoom, you are having more meetings per day.
Well, and you're certainly, the more I think about it, nobody's having small talk. So in the past, we'd be whoever I'm sitting next to, I would get to know on a more personal level before the meeting started. Now, you know, if we're all in this Zoom together, I can't really have small talk with just one person. So there's a lot of that that's missing.
Yes. But there's been a balance. I mean, some wins, and just we've lost a lot of the interaction. And if we are a highly affiliative culture as the Hispanics, definitely we are missing that piece.
All right, Ms. Marisol.
2 things that I have noticed with the Zoom is, yes, there is no small talk. And in our organization, what we have done is we have started opening the session 20 minutes before and just allowing people to go in and start just, you know, mingling until it's time to actually start the session, because we kept getting feedback from the people. We didn't have time to really connect. So that has worked well. So, you know, it would be 20 minutes where I'm like, hey, Mike, I haven't seen you for a while. What have you been doing? Another thing that I have, hey, Mike. Another thing that I have seen with the different cultures is, if I have a meeting at 12 and it's like this one, I'm going to be in by 5 minutes before, ready when that camera is on. But in some of my Hispanic meetings that I attend, people trickle in, and then the meeting really lasts half an hour, because by the time everybody's in, half an hour went by. And it has been, to me, an issue, not at the Hispanic Entrepreneur Initiative, because we play with that half an hour before, but to other meetings that I go to, other groups, what is proper for people to understand. If it was in person, you wouldn't arrive half an hour late. you would be there on time. So that has been one of the negative things. Renata is raising her hand.
Yeah, I think I have a comment on that because very often we can help this quite easily by understanding that we have different habits or different ways of doing things, and it lies in the hands of the organizers basically to do some what we call framing. Meaning we can plan ahead and introduce people to a concept like, okay, let's say our meeting starts at 9 o'clock, but the first 10 minutes, the first 20 minutes, the first 30 minutes, that's your choice, is going to be that mingling. And so you can come early, you can come anytime between. You basically give a time frame and people can turn up within that time frame. And they can just sit there and listen and see what's going on, because for some people that's very important to establish a feeling of what's going on, who agrees with whom, what's the atmosphere, or they can engage in small talk. They can even, the organizer can put them in breakout rooms. They can have one-on-ones before the meeting starts. We can do private messaging in the chat box. I can type in something for everyone, or I can privately message someone. So we can use those little technology features and feed our need to do these things prior to the meeting, and then we agree when the actual meeting really starts. And what's very important interculturally is also to agree on what is the meeting for. What are we going to do during the meeting? Is it to just establish a quorum, to hear people's ideas? Are we actually going to make a decision or not? Is it common to make a decision during that open forum platform? How are we going to handle an agenda? Do we actually have one, or do we create one as we get together? There's a lot of things to think about, and I think the better you know your team and the better the management, the leadership handles these aspects so that we all have the same expectations, the better these things will go off online.
What else? Who else has some thoughts? Mr. Bakir. Unmute.
Say that.
Uh-oh, you froze. Is everyone, are you? I think you're frozen.
My
Everyone else is
internet
moving normal.
connection is unstable.
All right, it's working for a minute. Go ahead and ask your.
It's back and forth. I just wanted to comment on Armando's discussion. So important. I'm a keen fan of cross-cultural communication and management. It was essential reading in my graduate program. And living here on this side of the world, I am now exposed to a larger Latino population, which is so interesting for me. The discussion that the subject that Armando was talking about, the differences and technology today, the problems now is that in addition to understanding backgrounds and drives and emotions, we used to go by cues, which are very difficult now to grasp on virtual. Body movements, reactions, these things sort of used to help navigate, the cultural waters, as they say. And these are gone, and it makes it much more difficult. Obviously, technology has helped, and I agree with the discussions have become much more succinct, straight to the point, and I think fruitful as a result. But I definitely miss the human reactions. It kind of helps. It's not just the words that you're dealing with, but it's the emotions, the reactions, that sort of thing.
You're right about the cues, especially. You're right. I mean, there's. I wonder if when this is all over, we're going to have to relearn some certain things, right? And relearn to actually look at people in the eye. I mean, think about it. None of us are actually looking at each other in the eyes, and that's just insane, But
so, in addition to the cross-cultural differences, we're having to deal with that as well. Yeah, I like the learn aspect. It's even more important, Armando. The acronym.
Yeah.
Communication.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions? Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Armando, and I appreciate
thank you.
your slides. I think we can share the slides. Is that okay? We can share
Yes.
them with everyone. I would ask if you're interested, you can put your contact information in the chat box. Just your name and your phone number and your email address, and that will give us permission to share your information with the others on this call. And while you're doing that, I will slowly take a minute to tell you what events are coming up so you have enough time to put your contact information in the chat box. I know next week, well, first, today's election day. Don't want to forget about that. If you haven't voted, please vote. If you run your own company and you have employees, please allow your employees to go and vote during business hours, preferably if you can do that. It's just, it's amazing to see the turnout that's happened this election. It's truly amazing to see how many people have actually voted when in the past it was like pulling teeth to get people to vote. I think it's a beautiful thing. And we all need to do our it's our right to vote and take advantage of that and do what's right and actually vote. And it's our voice. So definitely vote. We have a breakfast, our monthly membership breakfast, November 12th, I believe, which is Thursday. It will be hosted by Florida Power and Light. They have done some amazing things for their customers throughout this pandemic. And so, just to hear about some of the things that they've done to support, they've put holds on bills and discounted and certainly haven't turned anybody's power off and things like that. It's pretty amazing. They're partnering with some of the counties and the cities when it comes to the digital divide, which I'm not sure if you've heard about that, but that's something that our community is really focusing on to ensure that our students certain students don't live in areas that have challenges with the internet, because obviously there's so much online schooling happening that they're trying to make sure that there is no digital divide happening and that everyone has the power to use the internet and have good service. So so come to that breakfast next Thursday at 7:30. Sorry, 8:30. And other than that, I think I've given you enough time to put your information in. I absolutely appreciate, again, Armando, you taking the time to speak with us today. Thank you all. It's a pleasure seeing you all and looking at each of you, not necessarily in the eye, but I feel like I am. So thank you, and we'll see you next round.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. It was an honor to be invited.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.